Okay, hello everyone. A warm good evening to everyone who has just entered the session for our talk happening shortly. So please take your time to settle in, perhaps get something to drink as you listen in to the talk over the next hour and a half or so. So this talk is the TCM way of staying healthy amid and after the pandemic and is organized by SAGE Counselling Centre. Our guest speaker for tonight is Dr. Goh Chai Tee. He is the director of the NTU Chinese Medicine Clinic and is also the director of the double degree program in Biomedical Sciences and Chinese Medicine at NTU. So I will be introducing more later, but for those of you who are new to us, this talk is only one in a series that we organize throughout the year. So this is actually part of our public education program, and topics covered in the past include aches and pains and aging well with food from head to toe. We also cover topics that are relevant to seniors to enhance their total well-being with focus on their psychological and social aspects of health. So for anyone who is interested, do follow us on Facebook for updates on our next and future talks. So I will now place the link in the chat box for everyone to see. Okay, meanwhile, there are still people entering, so thank you for your patience while we wait a little longer. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So once again, a big thank you to everyone for joining us tonight to listen to the talk organized by SAGE Counselling Centre. So I hope everyone had a good dinner and are ready to listen in for the talk. So tonight's topic marries two topics. The first is traditional Chinese medicine, and the second is the pandemic. So I am sure many, if not most of us, are here because there are some health concerns, especially during COVID, when everything is so unknown and changing so rapidly. And we are also less active outside, and we tend to adopt a more sedentary lifestyle. So how does TCM play a role in the pandemic and even after the pandemic? We hope that everyone here will be able to learn something and even share your learnings with your friends and family too. But before that, I know that there are some guests joining us online for the first time today. And while we wait for more guests to log on and join us, please allow me to take some time to share about SAGE Counselling Centre and what we do. So as our name suggests, one of our key services lies in counselling. So this service is free for Singaporeans and permanent residents aged 50 and above, as well as their caregivers and family members. So if any of you are interested, we are located at Jurong Point Shopping Centre, right next to Boon Lay MRT station. So you can call us or drop us an email to find out more. Our contact details can be found at the bottom of the slide. Secondly, we also have another service that is accessible to anyone that has a phone, regardless of your location. So this is our seniors helpline. Anyone who would like a listening ear can call in and share about your challenges, or if you simply want to just chat with someone, that is also okay. Our trained volunteers will pick up your call. We also have public education, such as today's talk. Following, a lot of our services involve volunteers, so if you are interested, we also provide volunteer training. The next group of services and programs are very popular. We have the home maintenance service that offers free basic home maintenance and repairs for seniors who may not be well off. So seniors just need a blue CHAS card or to be on community assistance to qualify for the program. So we do repairs such as fixing light bulbs, leaky taps, and more. So if you know of any seniors in need of repairs, you can call us to find out more. We also have arts and culture programs. So for Reminiscence Walk, before the pandemic, we will bring seniors out to tour different cultural and heritage sites. And we also have expressive therapeutic art and the Music Ambassador program. But since COVID-19 started, our Music Ambassador program has been on hold. Okay, moving on, please also note that we have an advisory on personal data protection. So during this talk, photos and videos of you may be taken for publicity, training, and marketing purposes. We would also like to gently remind our friends of a few pointers. So please remain muted during the talk. If not, sounds will interfere with our speaker's delivery. Please also do not record this talk in sound, video, or photography, as the contents are confidential. So if you have questions, please also leave them in the chat box below, and we will try to post a question on your behalf during the Q&A. We will have some time for Q&A after our speaker has delivered his talk. So as we expect a large turnout today, we again apologize if we are unable to answer all the questions and seek your understanding on this. So for those who also wish to revisit the information shared, there will be a recording available on our YouTube channel, and later on I will share the link. So to everyone who has joined us on Zoom as well as YouTube, thank you for joining us in today's webinar, the TCM, Way of Staying Healthy Amid and After the Pandemic. So without further ado, I will introduce our speaker, Dr. Goh. So Dr. Goh, he is a Singapore-registered TCM physician with a PhD degree from the Nanjing University of Chinese Medicine in China. So he is actually a frequent speaker at renowned international conferences on TCM, and is also an international peer reviewer in a WHO project on TCM. His current research interest includes the effects of Tai Chi on healthcare, acupuncture for depression, modernization of TCM, and the application of TCM for better geriatric health management. So now I will pass the time to Dr. Goh. Dr. Goh, please.
Okay, thanks, Marita. And good evening to everybody. And thanks for taking time off to join this webinar. Tonight's talk will be on TCM's way of staying healthy. As we all know that we have been suffering from this pandemic for more than 2 years. I remember when it just started, we thought it'd be over in 1 year. And after 1 year, we thought it'd be over soon, but now it's already more than 2 years. Well, so far, we may say so far so good. All right, with all the measures taken, particularly the vaccination and also all the social distancing, wearing a mask, etc. So we have the situation under control. But the pandemic doesn't seem to end soon because we have Delta and then Omicron and now all the sub-variants coming out. So we don't really know how long will it last. And so there will be a lot of people were having some anxiety on what to do next. You know, we have done all we can, and of course, some people will be interested to know how TCM look at this whole thing, right? How TCM look at disease, how TCM deal with this kind of pandemic. So, today's talk will be talking about how TCM view disease, how TCM look at body, and then what kind of treatment principles. I'm not going to the details because of time constraint. Rather, I will just give an overview and also share some of the underlying principles that TCM practitioners follow. So to start off, let's look at how TCM view our body and how the functionality of our body. If you look at this diagram, well, it shows a human body with the organs, with the limb and all the various anatomical parts. And it's no different from how TCM view human body. But there are some other unique aspects where TCM look at the human body differently from the modern medicines. So if you look at the diagram I just posed, well, it has 5 elements, right? Wood, fire, earth, matter, water, and TCM associate these 5 elements to the 5 main organs within our body. And why is it so? The reason is simple, because TCM started long time ago, and also they don't have all the tools to understand to do all the autopsy and then do a very detailed examination of the body parts and organs. So what they do is they try to associate things around them or within their body with the environment, with the activities, or with whatever around them. So they found these 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, matter, and water. These are 5 elements that they can find anywhere around them. So they use these 5 elements to represent the 5 items, and also try to study the relationship among these 5 elements. And they try to plug these 5 elements to the 5 essential organs that they have understood from the knowledge they have at that time. So wood is to represent liver, fire is to represent heart, earth is the spleen or the digestive systems, matter is the lung, and water is the kidney. And the uniqueness of this is that these 5 elements are actually interconnected. So it becomes a one whole system. And these 5 elements, they supplement each other or complement each other. And at the same time, they also restrain each other so that none of them will go haywire and run out of the system. So that's how TCM started with a view on this so-called visceral system. And that is also a manifestation of the so-called holistic concepts. Now, other than this, all right, so this, the human body, the structure, the anatomical structure, the organ system, visceral systems exist to perform all the necessary metabolic functions, so that we can live and then do all the necessary things and activities. And in order to carry out all this, we need to have substance, right? So as we know, we have blood, we have fluid, we have essence within our body. And these are the basis for performing all the metabolic functions. But having all these is not enough, because we need to have energy to move all this substance, to move the system, so that the body can work. So TCM then introduced this concept of qi. All right. The easiest way to understand qi is to take it as energy. So you have the energy, you have the substance, you have the system, and put all things together. And therefore, the person becomes a living person, and then can carry out all the routine activities, daily activities, and also perform all the metabolic functions. Now, so as you can see here, qi is one of the uniqueness of the way TCM understand human body, because you don't find this in modern medicines. The other things that you may notice, that in this diagram, you see a lot of lines with black dots. These are meridians in TCM terminology, and meridians are actually the passage for the qi to flow within your body. And within our body, we have altogether 12 main meridians, and we have 2 extra vessels, and also a number of collaterals. And this whole thing form a very big network within our body, so that the energy can flow to every part of the body. All right, and you notice there are black dots. These are actually intersection, or you may interpret this as some kind of interchange of the flow of qi. All right, so qi will congregate on all these black dots, and hence these black dots are becoming the so-called acupoints within the meridian systems. And therefore, because qi congregate on these points, it becomes very convenient place for us to make any adjustment to the flow of qi within the meridian system. And therefore, when we do acupunctures, we insert a needle into all these acupoints to actually do some fine-tuning on the flow of the qi by manipulating on all these interchange points. So this is how TCM look at the body, and I will call this a system, a body system, all right? And that is in line with the so-called holistic approach. The body, the structure, the visceral systems, the substance, the qi, the energy, everything put together, and it becomes a perfect system. And all these elements, they have to work together, right, under a big system in order for the body to function properly. And therefore, we need to have harmonization. Every part, bits and pieces have to be well coordinated, well harmonized for things to work. All right. Otherwise, this person is not going to be a normal person. He cannot perform all those daily functions normally. And so in TCM, we stress a lot on holism. We look at every parts put together. We look at harmonization, and we look at balance. All right, because if we just talk about harmonization of every part, it doesn't become operational. How do we know that we have harmonization? So subsequently, the ancient people narrowed down into two attributes or two components, which is called yin and yang. All right. So when yin and yang becomes balanced, we can imply that the system is working smoothly and working in harmonization. All right. So how does this yin and yang come about? Again, they try to relate to the environment, to the things around them. And remember, this happens many thousand years ago. So they observed the elements around them, and they found that most of the things can be divided into two broad categories. All right. For example, they observed that there's night, and then there's day, and day and night will just continue interchangeably. And also when the weather change is from cold to hot. So these are two extreme, two opposite attributes, which ancient people classify them as yin and yang. So the night and the cold weather is considered as yin, day and hot weather is considered as yang, all right? And also down, up, or inside, outside, also a differentiation of yin and yang, ascending, descending, hyperactive, or hypoactive. These are all also yin and yang. And they believe that because human body actually is part and parcel of the nature, therefore they should also follow the same principle of yin and yang. And so they start to apply this concept by looking at the body, by subdividing the body into yin and yang. And they find that, well, these classifications is very useful. They are able to actually, assess whether a human body is working harmoniously. All right. Then the next question you may want to ask is, so how do we know that a person is having a balanced state of yin and yang? Well, so it boils down to the method of a diagnosis. All right. TCM has a unique way of diagnosis to assess whether a person has to achieve the balance of yin and yang, so that the body is in healthy stage and doing all the necessary functions. And these four diagnoses, we call them Wang, Wen, Wen, Xie. That means Wang is observation. When TCM physicians does diagnosis, they will first of all observe the patients, looking at the behavior, the complexion, the activity, and so on, so forth. The other one is smell and hear. For example, smell bad breath, hearing the voice, whether the person talk with very solid voice, or talks like someone who is half dead, or hearing also like someone is coughing. So from the hearing, we can tell whether what type of cough is it, whether it contains phlegm or not. All right. Inquiry, we ask a lot of questions on the person's history, whether there are any triggering factors before the problem start to arise, and also whether the person has been exposed to any adverse environment or some kind of pathogens and so on. And the last one is palpitation, mainly that's taking pulse. All right. So by looking at the strength of the pulse, the pattern, the nature, characteristics of the pulse, we are able to tell whether the person is having some kind of disease or some kind of illness. So coming back to the balance, just I talk about balance. If a person is in yin and yang balance, then we can say that person is healthy. But this so-called yin and yang balance has to be at certain optimal level. All right. So if you look at these two ends, the blue represent the yin, the red color represent the yang elements, and they have to be in balance. And if I assume that the strength of yin and yang is equal, say all at strength of 3, if we assume this is the optimum level, and if a person achieves this level, then we can say that he is healthy. All right, he's healthy, and also implying that he has good immunity, strong immunity, and less likely to catch virus infection. I say less likely, doesn't mean that he can never catch it. And also bear in mind that when you talk about balance, or so-called optimal balance, it is the dynamic balance rather than static balance, because human body is a living, we are talking about a living person. So the person is exposed to an external environment and also continuously changing the state, during metabolism. So his condition or her condition is forever changing all the time. So the state of yin and yang balance can change from time to time. But the good thing is our body is able to do the necessary physiological adjustments, right? So that the body can always restore the balance. Just to give an example, let's say you go for jogging, all right, you exercise. So when you exercise, you need to exert force, increase the level of energy. So your qi, the level of qi, which is a yang, will go up, and also generate heat. So at that stage, you find that your body is hot. And in order to balance that, the body perspire. So the perspiration will bring away some of the heat. And that is a mechanism to balance the yin and yang. All right. So when a person perspires a lot, he will become thirsty, because then you short of water. So the level of yin will drop. And therefore, after exercise, the person has to drink water to replenish the level of yin, and so that to restore the balance. So all this will be changing all the time, but after all the variations, your body will adjust back to the optimal balance condition. So that is the normal metabolic function. And next, I'm going to illustrate a few cases where you find the so-called imbalance. All right. So the first case, if you look at the numbers, the number of yin is 3 and number of yang is 4. Now, this is a state of called yang excess. All right. So what will be the pathological expression of this kind of condition? Well, a good example will be when a person is having fever. You take temperature, you measure, degree is 38, 39, or even higher. So obviously, the level of yang, the heatiness has gone up, shoot up beyond normal. Therefore, the person has this fever. That is called an excess. Over the side of the yin, the substance, the fluid level is still okay, but because of the excessive heat, therefore, the person has got fever. That's called yang excess. So how to deal with this situation? To bring back the balance? Well, obviously, we have to take away the strength of yang. That means we have to get rid of the fever. And of course, you can go and take paracetamol to reduce fever, but very often paracetamol effect can last for a few hours. After the fever will come back. The TCM approach is actually get something to neutralize the fever. And therefore, that's where the cool herbal tea can come in to neutralize the heat or the fever so as to bring down from level of 4 to 3. Or alternatively, if we know that the fever is caused by a virus or bacteria or germs, if we can kill the germ, then of course the fever will be gone. All right. To kill a germ nowadays is not that difficult because we have a lot of different types of antibiotic, and so we can do the job. But other than germs or bacteria, now I have these viruses. All right, and antibiotic is useless to viruses, so we can't use antibiotic to treat fever. Okay, so this is the first case. The second case is called yin deficiency. All right, if you look at the numbers, it's 2 against 3. 3 is the optimal level. 2 is short of 1, meaning that over to the inside, probably you have lack of water, lack of fluid within your body. There's dryness. So what is the kind of manifestation? Well, because of the imbalance, you have excessive heatiness. So you also have heat sensation. But this type of sensation is different from the first case, because first case you get fever. But the second case, when you use a thermometer to measure, there's actually no fever, but you just feel very hot. You know, you always have that kind of hot sensation. It come and go. This is called yin deficiency. So how to rectify the situation? You have to put back the shortage of the fluid by beefing up the yin, all right? Increase from 2 to 3 to balance, and hence then the hot sensation will go away. Okay, so this is a second example. Well, you could have a reverse situation. The third example will be yang deficiency, which means there's nothing wrong with your fluid or water, but over the other end, the person is short of energy, you know, feeling lethargic, very often tired, and then speak softly, and also aversion to cold. When everybody in the aircon room, he is the one who complained that temperature is too cold. All right. So obviously, suffering from yang deficiency, how to rectify? We have to beef up the level of yang, and we have to take some heaty stuff, right? Or as simple as just drink some ginger water. And more serious cases, you may have to take ginseng, for instance. So as you can see from here, we have the excess situation, and rectification is to reduce. We have the deficiency situation. The rectification is to replenish, or we call that tonify. All right. So when you talk about tonifying, there's always a misconception by a number of people that when we talk about tonifying, we are referring to things like ginseng, cordyceps, all this kind of very hot or heaty stuff. But if you look at the illustration here, tonifying not necessarily means eating ginseng or cordyceps, because these are all heat and hot stuff. And for the case of yin deficiency, if you eat ginseng, you tonify, situation gets worse. Instead of 2 versus 3, it becomes 2 versus 4. All right. So it's only for the third case where you have yang deficiency, you put in ginseng, cordyceps, or tangui, that kind of hot stuff. Well, it works. Or ginger. Okay, so when we talk about, remember, tonifying does not necessarily means tonifying the yang or using hot stuff, heaty stuff to tonify. It can be also the tonifying of yin. Okay, that is to clear misconception by some people. Okay, now another situation where you have 2 versus 2. If 2 versus 2, well, I would say, yes, it is in balance, all right? But it is not in optimal balance, because optimal balance need to have strength of 3 versus 3. So you are in a hypo stage of balance. That means your metabolism is actually in the hypo stage. So in this case, because of deficiency, you need to beef up. All right, so you need to tonify. Again, you cannot just use ginseng to tonify because it was only one-sided. So you probably need ginseng and some other things to tonify the yin, which I will explain later. I will use 1 or 2 items to explain the tonifying of yin. All right. So from these few illustrations, you can see that via the 4 diagnoses, physician will be able to tell whether a person is in the healthy stage, or in the deficiency stage, or in the excess stage, and so that rectification is to either reduce the excess or tonify or replenish deficiency. That's how TCM does the treatments. Now, the next thing is, other than knowing all this and then know how to treat, I think one very another important aspect is to understand what could have caused all this imbalance, so that if we can prevent them, then that would be the best, because the so-called prevention is always better than the treatment. So next, I'm going to talk about the pathogens and the etiology. All right, etiology, what makes a person sick or ill or becoming imbalanced. Now, as we know that we doesn't exist in a vacuum, so we exist in certain type of environment whereby we got to interact with people, we interact with all the nature, with the environment, and so on and so forth. So, of course, we are subjected to the influence of all these external factors. And most or if not all of these can cause us problem. The first group are the microorganisms. All right, as we all know quite well, that bacteria, germs, viruses, parasites, all these can make us sick. All right, and make us fever and all kind of symptoms. And of course, right now, and the most important one is the virus. All right, so we have started from COVID-19 to Delta, and then to Omicron, and then the subvariants, various types of subvariants from permutations, and all these are causing us a lot of problems. And as I mentioned just now, if they are from bacteria or germs, we have all the antibiotics which can treat very easily, can kill all of them. So at a stage where virus was not so rampant, the bacteria and germs were effectively dealt with all the antibiotics, and that was also the stage where modern medicine developed very fast, because the antibiotics was actually very effective in getting rid of the problems. But now they come to viruses, while antibiotic doesn't work, so we can only rely on vaccinations to prevent us from catching the disease by alerting our systems to prevent them or to let them get familiarized with the virus. All right, that's how vaccination works. And also we have to resort to all the physical isolation measures, social distancing, wearing a mask to actually cut off from getting infection. Okay, this is what we have been doing right now. But having done all this, there's still no guarantee that someone will not catch it, right? I've got 3 doses of vaccination, and I think 2-3 months ago, I still get COVID, and so as many of my friends and relatives. But strange enough, some other people, although they had got close contact, they did not get infected. So what could have happened? Of course, we may say someone get stronger immunity. But other than that, what else could be the factors? All right. So coming back to TCM again, we look at the holistic aspects, right? We look at every possible factors. Here, TCM also recognize environment as one of the important factors which can make us sick, particularly the weather, right? So if a person is subject to very cold weather and without proper clothing, and the result is he or she will catch cold. Or if it's not catch cold, it will weaken his body. And then at that time, if there's any virus that comes by, even not a very strong density, he or she will still get infected, all right? The other reason could be the geographical locations. If you're in a desert, of course, you will suffer mostly from dehydration. If you're in a very cold weather, again, you can easily get all the cold induced kind of disease. So that's another group of the possible reasons of making a person fall sick. Now, other than this, all right, actually, we should not ignore that there are genetic factors. A person could be born with certain kind of inherited problems, which make he or she more sensitive to things or more prone to infections. All right. And also the other important thing is aging. When a person ages, the body doesn't function so well, and therefore it becomes having low immunity. Of course, strictly speaking, the genetic factors and aging, these are not strictly pathogens, but it does affect our immunity, affect our health. Now, the other group of the possible factors of causing a person to fall ill or prone to virus infection will be the lifestyle, right? Here we are looking at person's work, exercise, whether sleep well, what kind of food he or she eats. And lastly, another very important groups of factors, these are the relationship and emotional stress, all right? And this is one of the area which are often been ignored by many people because its impact is not very prominent or direct, but is gradually affecting a person's health. So we have to understand that there are so many types of factors or pathogens that can cause us ill or lower our immunity, which means that we have to, in order to keep ourselves healthy, to be strong, not to get infected easily, we have to mitigate all these factors properly, and then we have to manage all these pathogens or whatever so that to make it to our favor, all right? And if you look at all these groups, different 5 groups, the microorganism, actually the modern medicine has done a lot, as well as all the physical measures, all right? We have already done a lot in this pandemic. So what we need to do is still follow all kind of protocols. You need to wear a mask. If you need to have social distancing, by all means, just do it. So that's all we can do at this part on the virus. The environment factors, well, like the weather factors, of course, we are in a tropic country. Our weather is typically humid, hot and humid. And therefore, a lot of areas we have aircon. And this is actually one of the causal factors to many of the flu cases, because a lot of areas, a lot of offices, the aircon temperature is just too low. Some is even as low as 20 or slightly more than 20 degrees. And then when you step out of the office, the outside temperature is 30 or 30 over degrees. So such a drastic change of the temperatures can easily lower a person's immunity. Okay, so always bear in mind that although we are in a tropic country, but a lot of time we are in the office. All right, so keeping ourselves warm is very important, including our bedtime. I've seen a lot of patients complain of pain, and cramp, especially at night in dawn, early morning. When I ask them, well, do you use blanket? Many of them say no. Do you turn on aircon? Yes. No. Oh, so I tell them most likely it is a cold that cause all the problems. So from now on, you go back and put on cover blankets, or you put on a pair of socks when you sleep. All right, many of them follow, and then they get their conditions improved. Other than that, on the aircon can cause problems to neck problems, shoulder stiffness, and a lot of pains. So don't ignore that this air conditioning can really cause us a problem. The genetic factors, of course, this is something which we inherited, and aging issue is something by nature. There's nothing much we can do, except that we have to recognize them. All right. The lifestyle and the social relationship, emotional stress, and all this I will elaborate. Right. I'll elaborate in the following slides. Okay. Now, you notice that label here, there's this yellow emperor internal classic. In Chinese, it's called 黄帝内经. 黄帝内经 is actually a collective documentation of health knowledge, healthcare knowledge, and wisdom. And it was completed 26 years before century. That means till now is 2,000 over years. That means 2,000 over years ago, there was already this documentation on how people perceive healthcare, how people perceive illness and body. So a lot, the beautiful things is a lot of this knowledge and this classic are still applicable today and are still guiding the TCM physicians when they perform all the diagnosis as well as treatments. All right. So in this classics, which means 2,000 over years ago, they are very recognized, realized that there's this human life cycle. And in that classic, they differentiate between male and female. Female, every gap is 7 years. So starting from 0, 7, 14, 21, 28. And therefore, a female will peak at 28 and a male will peak at 32. And after that, it goes on the decline. And so this cycle shows that we will grow and then we peak and eventually we will age, right? So this is something which is inevitable. And as we age, everything will become slower. Our body will be less efficient. Of course, also the differentiation also tells that as what we normally understood, girls will age slightly faster than boys, all right? So there's a slight gap between the two. Anyway, you know that in ancient time, a lot of emperors were trying to all sort of ways and means to look for medicines that can make them immortal. And the answer is up to now, no one succeeded. All right, which means that this life cycle and aging is part of natural process, which is irreversible, and we just have to go with it. Okay, now, so talking about aging, so how would senior people keep healthy? All right, the modern approach is relying a lot on monitoring. All right, so you have all kind of screening, all kind of checks and imagings, MRI, so on and so forth, come up with health reports with a lot of indicators. And these are all very useful means, and indicators are all objective numbers where can be easily understood by all of us. All right. So, but what the effect is because of these measurements. So once indicators is out of the range, we have to manage it. We have to control, and therefore we need to have medication. So if you look at the senior citizens, many of them started with a small package of medicines, and then it becomes bigger and bigger, and they need all kind of this kind of small boxes to contain, to put all the pills and tablets in every day. Otherwise, they will forget. And many, or if not all of this, has to eat lifelong. All right. So that is the modern approach of medication. And also bear in mind that a lot of these medicines has got side effect. So it may cause some harms if you take for a long, long time. This is a modern approach of healthcare. But what is a TCM approach? TCM approach, all right, we also look at the symptoms, but TCM combine all the symptoms into something, and then they try to drive at the fundamental causes and so-called the symptom identification, syndrome identifications. All right, and then they tackle the syndrome rather than the symptom. It means that they attend to the fundamental causes so that you get rid of the symptoms slowly one by one. So to start off, we talk about the aging, right? Aging is actually a process which give rise to the depletion of so-called prenatal essence. You can interpret as, say, your growth hormone is no more, your female or male hormone has gone down, therefore your body has deteriorated, so you become not energetic, you have osteoporosis, and you have menopause, all these kind of developments. The other thing that you find in senior citizens is it has a slow metabolism, and which is mainly due to lack of energy. So qi deficiency, all right, qi deficiency. And this example of manifestation is always indigestion, bloatiness. You cannot eat too much, otherwise your stomach discomfort. And as a result, you have inefficient nutrient transformation and transportation. Even you can digest, it doesn't go to the places where it belongs, where it should be. So if we go by the TCM approach, then we have to tonify the qi, all right? Replenish the qi to bring up the energy level so as to improve, to make our metabolism more efficient. The other common problem among the seniors is so-called qi stagnation, and that is a lot due to mental stress and emotional instability, and a lot is due to isolation, loneliness, and then retirement could be a factor. So that affects the flow of qi. That means the energy doesn't flow efficiently and smoothly within the meridian systems. And if the energy doesn't flow to area where you require energy, then of course it affects the metabolism. All right. And one of the immediate impact is it causes blood stasis. That means you have blood clot here and there. Blood doesn't flow to where it should be, or it remains at certain parts. So sometimes you see senior people having a lot of veins, green veins on the surface of the legs area, all right? That is because also of blood stasis. The other common problem is water retention, and water retention can cause obesity, make a person become fluffy, and also it can easily turn into flames. All right. So senior citizen used to have a lot of senior citizen has got this flame problem. They have cough out of flame every now and then, and all these are syndromes that could give rise to lumps and tumors because of stagnation, right? Congregation of blood, congregation of water. Slowly you develop into lumps, and then it can turn into tumors, and it turn into malignance and become cancer. And all this could result in low immunity, right? And if it's having low immunity, you make a person susceptible to external pathogenic attacks. And that was part of the reason and to explain why some people get the infected, some don't. Some vaccination also get infected. And also, other than the infection itself, even after it's turned negative, there's this thing called long COVID, right? That means a number of symptoms will still remain. And that also happens more on the senior citizens, OH people, rather than the young people, which is because the body is not so strong anymore. It has a lot of stagnations, you have a lot of stasis, a lot of flame accumulations, low efficiency. So these are the factors that we have to realize and we have to mitigate. And later on, I would explain how could we actually possibly do something to help to reduce all these unfavorable factors. Okay, the other group of elements, we talk about lifestyle, right? Just now we talk about lifestyle. If you look at the picture here, right, it involves work, exercise, involve sleep. So essentially, we talk about work-life balance. So when we talk about work, we make sure that we don't overwork, right? Don't overwork to such an extent that it's become long hours and insufficient rest. The other thing is the work environment. Always pay attention to the environment, especially the air conditioning, also the posture. Right. A lot of patients complain to me about pains, aches, and then I realized a lot due to posture. If you look at that first diagram, right, the top left, this is the one that is looking at mobile phone. And mobile phone is becoming one of the serious factors that will cause a lot of problems in time to come. So a lot of problem having neck problems, neck pains, because long hours on mobile phone. Eyesight problems, mobile phone. Isolations, antisocials, mobile phone. Okay, so this is a kind of lifestyle. When we talk about exercise, what we need to realize is for aged people, we have to adopt the correct type of exercise. All right. I have a patient who came to me and say, I run marathon. How come I still got knee pain? I asked him, how old are you? He said 50. I say 50, a marathon is not for you. You should go and swim because your knee cannot stand the impact anymore. So it's very important for us to realize what is the best exercise that suits the age, all right? The other thing is sleep. Sleep, there's this thing called biological clock, all right? Where at different hours, your body perform certain thing. And in TCM, there's this called cyclical apps. We call it 15流注. In TCM, every 2 hours is considered one interval. So at certain hours, the qi will be active and flow through the certain organs more than other organs. For example, if you look at diagram, let's say from 3 to 5 p.m., 5 a.m., the active organ is the lung. And then from 1 to 3 is the liver, which means at different intervals, your body is doing certain kind of repair, So it's very important that you need to have good sleep so that your body can perform the necessary repair and restore your health, restore your condition, body to the best condition for the next day. And I know that a lot of people nowadays do not actually pay much attention to sleep or have the habit of sleeping very late, either due to work or spend a lot of time on social media and so on and so forth. All right, so that is the kind of lifestyle we have to be mindful of. The other thing is what we eat. All right, if you look at the triangle, this is something we are familiar with, the food pyramid. So we need to have certain combination of carbo, meat, protein, and then fiber, and so on and so forth. That is the modern version, Western version of the dietary combination. If you look at the picture below, also a lot of foods are put together, and you notice that they all have different colors. So color combination is another way to have the combination, and this is happen to be also one of the TCM approach by combining food with different colors. The other important factor I mentioned just now is the emotional impact. All right, as I say, that a lot of people ignore or overlook this because the impact is not so direct or prominent. But again, in the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor Classic, it has actually documented that different kind of emotion can have impact on different visceral systems. For example, anger would straight away impact your liver. And then if you are worried all the time, it's going to affect your spleen, which means it's going to affect your diet, your digestion, so on and so forth. And all these are documented in the Huangdi Neijing and can fit into the 5 elements, all right? As we mentioned just now, the 5 organ systems, the 5 elements. So, but what I want to stress here is that we shouldn't take this rigidly as to say that, well, when certain emotion, it must impact certain organs only. Don't forget that all these organs are interrelated to each other. So it may start from one, but actually it can subsequently spread and snowball to other organs, to also the whole body. All right. So that is where the important is. Any type of bad emotion is going to affect your whole body eventually. And the TCM interpretation of this is via the impact on the flow of energy. Usually it's the stagnation of the qi that is the starting cause of the problem from this emotion. All right. And when you talk about emotion, okay, we have to also bring in the relationship because relationship emotions are interrelated, and both of these would have an impact on health, as I mentioned just now. And there was a study by Harvard Business School All right. They actually take 80 years. The study was started 80 years ago, and they traced 700 over men following through their life, and then they interview and check on them every year to ask them about their work, their home life, and their health. They also measure all the indicators, and the result shows that good relationships keep them happier and healthier. All right. So this is a very direct evidence, which also supported what has been documented 2,000 years ago in the Huangdi Neijing. All right. So don't forget the very impactful factors, which is the emotion. So we have to manage our emotion properly to maintain good health. So again, I want to quote the Yellow Emperors. It gives a solution. So what's the solution? The translation here is keep your mind free from avarice, be carefree and joyous. That means unnecessary stress on yourself. How to do it? Some of the tips, all right? These are not by no means all the tips. For example, you have to manage your expectation and moderate desire. So you have to differentiate between wants and needs. We only need 3 meals a day, but we may want to eat abalone and for lunch, and we want to shark fin for dinner. That is our wants. So all these expectation and desire, if you want to achieve them, you got to work for it, and you may pay a price on your health. Be kind and considerate to others. Always think from the other's perspective. That's going to promote good relationship, I can guarantee you. And avoid comparisons with others. Also, that will reduce your stress. If you want to compare with yourself. As long as you make improvement over years, you are better off. You are a better person. Don't go and compare with others, because there's nothing. This thing, some people complain unfair. I can tell you, at the time when you are born, we are already not in the same starting point. You know, if you are born to in the tycoon family, then your life is will be much better than many others. All right. So don't do that kind of comparison. And lastly, is always adopt positive thinking. All right. Whether in a favorable or adverse situation, always positive thinking. So it's the half glass kind of a theory. Is either you think it's half glass full of water or half glass already empty. All right. Positive thinking will say, well, not bad. I still have half glass of water. That can last me for a long time. Negative thinking will be, oh gosh, half glass of water gone. I'm going to die of thirsty because I'm in a desert, right? So that is how to make ourselves in a good state of mental health. So just now we have talked about the 5 elements which can be applied to the emotions. The 5 elements can also be classified according to the flavor of food, the color of food. So I mentioned just now that one of the way to have good combination of food is to look at the color. All right. So if you want to tonify certain systems, you look for that particular color. For example, if you want to tonify kidney, look for black stuff. All right. If you want to tonify your spleen or your digestive system, you want to tonify qi, go for yellow stuff. So what is good about TCM is the relationship between medicine and food. Because you may realize that a lot of TCM herbs can be found in the kitchen. because many of these, or if not all of them, are actually natural items. So it can be food, it can be used as medicine. And so you have the whole spectrum of the items which represent the yin property or the yang property or the cold type of items or the hot type of items, all right? And the further away, the extreme is the strength of the items. And we use those with strong properties for medication. So that, remember, we want to do the rectifications. We want to beef up the yang. We use very heaty stuff as medicine. But sometimes we may not want to adopt that kind of drastic measures. We want to do it gradually. So we can actually choose some of the things in between. All right. So some of things which has got a bit of a warm property but not so heaty. Some things which are cool but not so cold. And that is called the practice of food therapy. And the type of staple food we eat, like the white rice, actually is neutral. Otherwise, if we eat something which has yin or yang inclinations, we are going to fall sick if we eat every day, right? So it has to be something neutral. And if we want to adopt food therapy to do rectifications on the long-term nature, it is always good to adopt some of the items closer to the neutral region, all right? That's how food therapy is practiced. So I give you some examples. Just as I mentioned about black stuff, all right? So if you want to tonify kidney, well, you can look for black sesame. You can boil black beans soup with spare ribs, and also mulberry can be also good for tonifying kidney. All right. So these are all black stuff. The yellow stuff, well, you may not realize sweet potato is actually good stuff. Sweet corn, pumpkin, these are all in yellowish color, right? So these are examples where you can actually select food by colors. But mind you that these are not fixed and fast rule, because there are always exceptions. There are always items in a gray area. So sometimes we cannot just totally use color. All right. So next slide, I'm going to introduce some of the common items that we can find very common in the kitchen or in your daily life. And all these are good stuff where it can be used for different purposes. To start off, I want to introduce Chinese barley. Remember, it has to be Chinese barley, not the other type of barley where it's smaller in size. And the other type of barley where you can find when you buy barley water from coffee shop, they use a Western type of barley, which has got smooth texture, also taste. It tastes good, but it doesn't have the property of the Chinese barley. What can Chinese barley be good for? It can reduce water retention, and it can clear dampness. Remember, we are in a tropic country, high humidity. A lot of people are actually suffering from dampness. All right, so you can actually boil barley and then drink the water and also eat the barley. A lot of people will complain how to eat. It's tasteless, it's so tough. Well, of course, you have to boil longer. I would say 2 hours on a slow cooker. If you want a better taste, put some rock sugar. All right. So drink the water and eat the barley. The other one I want to introduce is ladybug. Right. Cough is good for cough and also good for nourishing the lung. So if you are suffering from long COVID, a lot of them suffering from long COVID, having a dry cough, well, we can use this ladybug. And you can actually put the two together. boil Chinese barley and lily bulb together and make it a dessert. All right. The other one you find very common is wolfberry. Wolfberry has got a lot of antioxidants, so that can help you to build up your immunity, and it has a lot of vitamin A, where it's good for eyesight, and that's what people is eating that for. You can eat it as a tidbit every day, just munch a few, or you can put it in hot water and then just take it as a type of tea. The other one is called Ophion Pogon japonicus, which is called Mai Tong. Remember, just now I talked about tonifying yin. This is a typical one that is used very commonly to tonify yin. So you find that you have a hot sensation without fever. Well, you can put some of this, water, and then take it as your normal beverage. And also, if you have long COVID, with dry cough, you can use this together with lily bulbs. All right. The next one I will introduce is the Chinese yam. You can see two types here. One is the one with long stem, which is the one you can find from the supermarket. Right. You can use it as food. The other type is the slices, is the dry one, where you can buy from medical hall. Now, this is also a very good item, which is more or less neutral, but it's good in tonifying qi, right? So it improves your energy level, and also it can help you to improve your water metabolism. So it can help to reduce water retention. The other one, just now we talk about blood stasis. So typical one we use is the Angelica root, Tang Gui. If you buy from medical hall, it can be slices made into slices. It has a very good pungent smell. So very simple. You just put it when you boil spare rib soup, chicken soup. Just put a few pieces into it. It gives you a very good smell, and also it has the effect of tonifying blood, nourishing blood. Also improve your blood, remove your blood stasis. Now, many people think that Angelica root is only good for females, especially pregnant ladies or ladies after birth. It's because its effect has a lot to do with related to blood. But actually, it's not true. Guys can also take Angelica root. It won't turn you into a female, right? After taking Angelica root. And most of these items I introduced are actually of neutral property, or only very mild heatiness or mild coldness. All right, so it's quite safe to take for a long period of time. Of course, the Angelica root is a bit on the warm property. Therefore, if you are not so sure, then you may want to consult a TCM physician before you take it. All right, but if you want to try yourself, it's fine. Try it, and then if there's no side effect, no ill effect, doesn't cause you sore throat, then that means it's okay. All right, so these are some examples where you can actually use to beef up your immunity, to help you to manage your long COVID if some of these symptoms suit the items. Okay. So just to, actually it's overtime. Just to wrap up, I would conclude by saying that it goes back to where I started, all right? To keep ourselves healthy, whether it's before COVID, during COVID, or after COVID, whether you get infection, whether you suffer from long COVID, doesn't matter. Always bear in mind that adopt the holistic view, look at every factors, and then always bear in mind it's very important to live harmoniously with the environment, social as well as physical environment, and always remember, make yourself in a state of balance in life, physically, mentally, so on and so forth. Okay, so lastly, I wish everybody happiness, health, and longevity. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Goh, for the very insightful talk. So I do see some questions coming in for Dr. Goh, but before that, there's just a short call for feedback. So I will share my screen now. Okay, so this is a gentle call requesting for your help in scanning the QR code on the screen. And also you can find the link to the feedback form in the chat room. So you will need your help to submit it by the end of the talk, as this will help us plan for better talks in the future. And I will leave the slide here for a few seconds for those who wish to scan the QR code. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions for Dr. Goh, we will try to address as many as we can with the remaining time. And Dr. Goh has
Maybe we can
told me
look
that
at Q&A first.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so Dr. Goh will be able to take questions in both English and Mandarin. So for those of you who are more comfortable conversing in Mandarin, you can leave your questions in either language. And if you'd like to ask Dr. Goh a question personally, you can raise your hand and we will invite you to unmute.
Okay, I will I will attend to the four questions
yes.
left in the Q&A first. Huh?
Okay.
Okay, what is the purpose of acupuncture needle? How does it work to relieve pain and tension? Acupuncture needle, because of the penetration, it actually trigger an impact to reduce inflammation, right, within the parts where needles is inserted. So it has the impact of reducing inflammation and therefore manage pain, right, reduce pain. Can trigger fingers be cured through TCM? Yes. How, which method? I've done quite a number of trigger fingers by using acupuncture. All right. Is barley green and barley from the same plant? Barley green. Oh, sorry, I'm not quite sure. Green bean or barley green. So I can't answer this one because I don't know what is barley green. Can we eat wolfberry as a snack daily? Yes and no. How many can we eat daily? Depends. Depends on our body constitution, because somebody already has got inclination of heatiness, then it's not advisable to eat daily or eat too many. Otherwise, it's okay to eat a few a day, maybe less than 10 pieces, I would say. But again, as I say, different body constitutions. So the best is you can test it out yourself. All right.
Okay. So those are the questions we currently have in the Q&A. I see there is one more in the chat. So he or she is asking, is it good to wear socks to sleep every night?
Yes, I would say, of course, I will suggest a loose type of socks, not very tight, otherwise it's going to cause poor blood flow.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Goh. There is someone who raised hand by the name of Lung Lai Ping. Are you interested to unmute yourself? I have invited you to unmute, so if you would like to speak to Dr. Goh, you can do so now. Okay, maybe
Sharon first.
We can go to Sharon's question first. So
can we put wolfberry into water and drink that? Yes, of course.
okay.
But you don't just drink the water, you got to eat the wolfberry. Don't waste it. Any oil massage press to soothe tired eyes and necks to get better sleep at night? Yes and no. You will certainly give you some kind of relaxation, but if your sleep problem at night is some sort of insomnia, I think you probably need more than that. Better go and consult a physician to get a proper diagnosis. Can TCM assist to increase our hair quantum? Yes and no. You heard the advertisement of Yunnan, the hair care. I would say it's rather hard to increase hair quantum because especially if it's some kind of a permanent damage. So it depends on the condition. Does eating durian cause young excess? Yes. Because durian is heaty, so you actually increase the level of young. And therefore, we always advise that it's always better to balance with something cooling. Mangosteen is a best combination because also they happen to be in the same season. If not, you can eat some watermelon, all right? That will balance it. How to reduce bloatedness and indigestion. One way is to see whether that happens after eating certain type of food. If it's due to certain intake of food, then you try to avoid that type of food. If it's having some kind of chronic gastritis or chronic problems, you probably need some kind of treatment. Acupuncture can treat that very effectively. Of course, also there are medications. My trigger finger was killed by a few months ago. Congratulations. What is the proper sleep position? Well, you find the position that you find most comfortable with. Okay, because I realize some people may have certain habit of a certain position. I think there's no standard. Why does a TCM doctor advise me don't drink cold water? Oh, because our stomach actually needs certain temperature to function effectively. So the cold water goes down, it's going to reduce the energy to the stomach need more energy to counteract the cold water. So that is therefore it's not in favor of the stomach. Why is my immune nerve always ache and sore? You need to consult a TCM physician for that. Does acupuncture help to reduce water retention in the legs? Yes. In fact, I have treated a patient for about a year for obesity, for bloatedness, and also water retention in the leg, and purely with acupuncture. And she is now healthier than anybody else. In fact, she has just given me a big piece of cake last week. How to avoid bone joint ache for seniors? It depends on the condition, but you may try keeping yourself warm, right? Especially keeping yourself warm when you sleep at night. See what happens. Trigger finger, a lot of time is because of exposure to cold during sleep at night. A lot of people has a habit of putting the hands, palms outside the blanket. So simple way you can try is put the hands underneath your blanket and see what happens. Can TCM help with eye condition? Yes. Depends on what the eye condition.
Okay.
To improve as go to toilet very often. Yes. One way is to actually increase the level of qi, because TCM explanation is there's a lack of strength to uphold your bladder. Therefore, there's a sagging of the bladder, and therefore you have this urination sensation very often. So one solution is to beef up the level of qi to make the bladder hold better in your body. All right, and that can be done through acupuncture, of course, medication. You can try some ginseng if you want, but mind you, mind your body constitution.
Okay.
Does Tai Chi or Qigong treat bladder? Yes, in a certain way, yes. And other organs. Answer is yes.
Thank you, Dr. Go, for answering all the questions in the question and answer box. So there are, in the interest of time, maybe we can wrap up with the last two questions. So we have one question from YouTube. Yeah, so I will ask you about the YouTube. Yes, the YouTube question is, 2 of my family members have cold feet and cold hands. When I offer massages on both their feet and hands, what sign and symptom is that? Is that considered blood stasis?
That's one possibility. All right, blood stasis. So the blood doesn't flow to the tip of your body because that's where it's difficult to reach. But the blood stasis could be caused by qi deficiency. Remember, you need energy to push the blood. So if it's due to lack of energy or energy deficiency, then the solution is to beef up the energy level. At the same time, also follow with some items which can improve blood circulation, like the Angelica root that I mentioned just now. So you can take Chinese yam on a daily basis. What to do, how to do, very simple. It's just cut a small portion and then put it into a rice cooker, cook together rice and eat together rice. Do it on a daily basis. All right, try that.
Okay, thank you. So another question is, why are my bones, nerves, muscles, sorry, that's the question that's already been answered. So the next question is, what are some ways to reduce phlegm?
Reduce phlegm. Remember, phlegm is caused mainly by water stagnation. So in TCM jargon, water stagnation is because of low efficiency on the spleen. All right. So to beef up the spleen and metabolism of water, I also recommended the Chinese yam. It can help improve the condition. It can increase your level of energy. It can also help improve your water metabolism. All right. So I think that is one of the good items. Okay. There are 2 types. And in the supermarket, if you want to just buy the raw one, the Japanese type is more expensive, but texture is slightly softer. The cheaper one is Chinese, from China, and I think efficacy-wise is equally good. So it's up to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Go. Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for the questions. So before I go on to do the closing, Dr. Go, is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Okay. When we talk about healthcare, increase immunity, there's no magic solution. Right? Don't think that we can do one thing or just take one certain items or just go for a jet and then everything is solved. We need to work for it. All right. Imagine just how we look at so many of the pathogen and disease-causing factors. All these need to be mitigated. All right. So again, I would suggest looking at problems holistically.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Go, for the thought, and for everyone else here today who has submitted the questions to Dr. Go. Hope that the talk has been useful to you. So if I can just circle back to our feedback form before we end, this is just a final call for feedback, and that there are some prizes to give away this time. So 5 lucky respondents, you will receive a art toolkit worth $20 from us. So you just have to ensure that when you fill up the feedback form, your name and contact number is entered correctly. And after that, we will contact you. We'll contact the lucky winners and give you further details on how to go about collecting it. Okay. So for those of you who have missed our introduction also, here is just a recap of the services that SAGE Counselling Centre has to offer. So first is our counselling, which is free for Singaporeans and permanent residents. So it is actually a platform for you to discuss your personal, social, and emotional challenge with our counselors. So you can drop us an email or a call if you're interested. And the second is our seniors helpline, which is a toll-free helpline for anyone age 50 and above who wants to chat. So the number is 1-800 and 555-5555. So you're welcome to call this helpline as well. Okay, and we'll be seeing Dr. Goh again very soon next month. He will be doing the same talk, but in Chinese this time. So the talk will be the end of July. And if you have learned from today's talk and you want to bring in more of your friends or family members to listen in to Dr. Goh, you are welcome to do so. Please keep a lookout for our email that we'll be sending out to all the mailing list participants when registrations are open. We will also put up the details on our Facebook page. So please keep a lookout for that. Okay, and with that, we have come to the end of our presentation and tonight's talk. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Goh, for sharing with us so many things about TCM and for everyone's attention in tonight's talk. So we hope to see you again next month. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night. Take care, everyone.
Okay, Beans Katara, you requested for the QR code. If you're still here, this is the QR code. I will place the link to the feedback form again for those who have missed it earlier. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, good night, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll see you next month.